Hey, YouTube. I've had an array index is out of range error, which is why the water is apparently not, meeting this seawall, and why the floor has dropped from some of my buildings, something to do with Surface Painter. But there you go. Anyhow, I am fishing this iteration of Fisher Point. Oh, that's right, this iteration doesn't have the sign. The sign that this one does have is a swanky little road time sign, and for some reason the word Zen. I don't know why. But the next iteration has Fisher Point. Yes, this is one of two iterations. The defining feature of each, and sort of the only really finished part of each, being this wharf, which acts as the outside connection to, well, not just Fisher Point, but the rest of the region at this point. There will be more ports eventually, and, more outside connections. But, this was feeding the whole of the region so far. Either this way out towards more of the green, grassy area, which sort of defines the west, maybe. Or out towards the tropical side, which is Asia, pretty much. Anyway, we never really made it there because things got a little bit out of control. A defining feature of the defining feature specific to this iteration of the wharf is the not that big but pretty standout interchange feeding the wharf. It has two levels. The base level, which services the fishing buildings and marina, and then a bypass level that leads out to the region, as I alluded earlier, without getting in the way of all of the base level traffic. Then there is this nice car park, shopping centre, some old building, which is behind this nicely curved railway track. Just nicely curved enough, there's that error, just nicely curved enough to fit the Burj Al Arab, which has been a favourite staple of mine to stick in various nooks and crannies, and don't know why I tried to align it to that building, that's not going to work. And this nook and cranny, it fit into rather perfectly, I thought. And so I was thinking of making that a thing. And that idea is kind of what marked the beginning of the end for this place, because it was starting to get pretty built up. Really, the beginning of the end was when I placed this mid-rise building on the shore here. Just place one mid-rise, you say to yourself, until all of a sudden you have a little mid-rise commercial centre. Ooh, I was going to make that Ye Olden style by the looks. And how exciting, and how up my alley. But my original vision for Fisher Point and this whole region was to fill it up quickly. And in wanting to follow that dream, I started a new iteration, which I have also abandoned and which I will run over just to give you an idea of what I was thinking the second time around as well. But before I move on to that, I just want to single out this little railway station because I thought that was going cool. Going well. I mean, it only has two lines leading into it, which is potentially fairly simple, but just the fact of the way it curves up around the point here, I think is nice, and the fact that it leads into a green bridge. I'm very fond of these green tracks. That's reason enough for me to be excited about some rail. And then it's a fairly sharp curve in the other direction. I just think that's cool that they both meet there. Whereas the curve on this side is a bit more shallow, and then they meet up again. This side being a bypass, that side leading into the station. And then, since it started leading out here, I thought it got too complicated, and that's probably all I want to say about this place. But 2 months later, after I abandoned it, I'm almost sad I did, but I do want to follow the dream of simplification. So here is that sign, and a simplified version of the wharf. This place has kind of been ravaged more obviously to me than the other by the array index out of range error. It's having the same problems, but I've been working on this one a lot more, and it's much more noticeable to me where things have dropped off. For instance, this hill was very neatly terraced, and not so much anymore, as well as this part of the port. This was all logging for some reason. I thought that would be a cool thing to have the port, fishing and then logging on this side, and there would be some logs out here and they'd have to drive through the center of town to get there. So that was going to be cool. The seawalls, I thought I had placed in a nice spot to make, placing them in an arc that just extends straight from the marina looked like a little bulbous and marshmallowy, but I moved them in so that it looks more square and cut, I suppose. The dock then extends into a ferry platform, and the further extending boardwalk stuff I didn't really have a purpose for, but I just like sticking in infrastructural elements in places sometimes, and that broke up the beach into a little channel that I just thought was cool. Then the little suburb above the sheds, I don't know, it's just going to be a little suburb, but I thought it was cool how one street dropped underneath this bridge, or, well, two do, but either side of the pillar at different levels. Oh my goodness, what is this gigantic square? I am sure that has something to do with the massive error that's going on around the place. This also raises the question, can I ever trust Surface Painter again? I will try to build without it, but I've relied on it a fair bit. A lot of this was surface painted. Anyhow, and then the bridge joined up to the beginning of the end of this iteration, which was a semi-specific interchange. Why am I seeing crosswalks? At some point I had removed those, but stuff's all stuffed up. And by the way, there was a lot more here. Cue me flashing an image of something I was lucky to capture for the graphics demonstration video I just took prior to this, which between then and now somehow has marked the time that this went to shit, which is unfortunate in a way, but thank goodness it went to shit just as I decided to start again on this area. In any case, I've reverted back a few saves, and thankfully it's not as mucked up as the newest save. Anyhow, this opera house was a cool addition. By the way, I'm playing on super duper low graphics. I just like the way it looks better. Unless you zoom into something close like this, that doesn't look very good. But generally speaking, I just like the low detail. So there you go. And so this frames this roundabout, which I was very unsure about, and that marked the end of the end. That thing, because as I said, I want to be simple, and that was already like a lot of time spent. It took me a long time to do that, even though it's just a few offshoots. And so then you better believe it took me a long time to wrap that, and these little tunnels are actually procedural objects, which I'm not that used to working with, so that took a long time. And another thing I was playing around with, and I'm glad I got to play around with it, but again, bit of a time sink, is just linking up multiple nodes in different ways. For instance, well, and this time it happened to take place with roundabouts. All of these being an example of what I'm about to explain, where, where's the best one? Like this isn't on the roundabout, but, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, and kind of just a 4-way in a way, but, I don't know, more nodes than usual and contorted in interesting ways. that just make an intersection that is oddly shaped. And yeah, this roundabout, like having 1, 2, 3, 4, rather than just 1, 2. Does that make sense? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. So some loaded up nodes, which I think makes cool shapes. Like, I really questioned my decision to add roundabouts at all when they were just plainly connected to like 1, 2, 3, 4. But adding connections to the side and loading up the nodes makes them really, really cool. MO. Well, sad face about not being able to show what else I was doing, because there was a little nightclub area. And what was here? Offices, that was my favorite, and a Woolies, Coles, Mitre 10 complex with a rooftop car park. Anyway, no point going into detail about that when it's not there. Hopefully I can stick to my dream of simplicity. I'll see how this goes. Thanks for watching. Goodbye forever.